It's a real pleasure to be with you today. The Garden of Burning Sand sort of continues some of the themes that I developed with A Walk Across the Sun, my first novel. So it's about human rights, but in this case, unlike the past book, which was set largely in India, this book is set largely in southern Africa, Zambia and South Africa, and focuses on the issue of violence against women and girls. So the core narrative is a story of a young girl with Down syndrome who gets raped in Lusaka. And she gets helped by an NGO of lawyers and social workers who help prosecute her abuser and get justice for her.
Corban, what is it about Africa that jumped out at you? Why did you want to set your book in Africa?
Yeah, honestly, it was a couple of things. I mean, we had some friends who were coming to Lusaka from the U.S. To start an NGO working with kids with intellectual disabilities. And we loved what they wanted to do, and we were horrified that that was sort of a really underserved population in sub-Saharan Africa. So my wife and I both thought it was a great idea to bring that into a story, but it wasn't until I ran across sort of serendipitously another story of a young girl with Down syndrome from a different NGO. We saw this, who had been raped on the streets of Lusaka, and then they had come to her aid, much like I developed in my story. And I thought, gosh, that's a great story to tell. And I realized also that I could build it out into a broader story and bring in the West and bring in this sort of global issue of violence against women, but using the lens of a story set in Zambia and South Africa.
Now, the central character in your book, Zoe Fleming, is a white person in Zambia, and she's the only foreigner there, but she's seen as a foreigner. You had a very similar experience when you traveled to Zambia. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly, actually one of the things I love about traveling in other parts of the world is that I actually feel like a foreigner, and I feel like a minority, which is actually a good thing, because back home I'm part of the majority, and just, it feels like my world, whereas when I go to a foreign place, it's their world, and I actually need to come with the expectation that I'm going to learn. And that's really the sort of attitude that I have. So yeah, I mean, there were definitely places where I was uncomfortable. I went into the compounds, you would call them sort of informal settlements in Johannesburg or townships. It was a little dicey at times. I was sort of alone and was learning about that world, but at the same time, it was necessary in order, again, to write an authentic book.
How do you keep that balance? Because you come to Africa as part of your research, and you want to go and you want to be as authentic as possible without being truly scary, because there are people that are going to read this book that have never been to Zambia, and they're going to take their cues from their book. Did you struggle to not romanticize Africa and kind of keep it real?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always seeking to achieve authenticity. So I'm never satisfied with a book that's just going to, give a gloss to a place. But I also come with the desire and the sort of expectation that every place is going to have beauty, and it's also going to have ugliness. And this is true back home. It's true in every place. It's true of every culture. It's true of every people. And so really I want to write stories that highlight both, that bring out the beauty in a place authentically, but that also bring out the ugliness, and that sort of merge the two together in a way that asks questions about justice, about the possibility of justice, about what one person who's courageous can achieve if they pursue justice.
Does fiction still apply to this kind of work, because it's really interwoven with the actual history of Zambia and a true experience?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think so. I mean, the great thing about fiction, and this, I'm a storyteller, so I have a bit of a bias, but the great thing in my mind about storytelling is that it can, in the best way, it can take issues and personalize them, because they get incarnated in characters who then become a mirror for the reader to see themselves, and then perhaps a portal to see the world differently, to form new perspectives. So my hope is that my fiction is as factual as it can be, but it really does give that lens, I think, for readers to see the world differently, and hopefully to respond in some positive way, in a way they can make a change.
Final question, I know she says, final question. What is that journey you want the reader to go on? When they open up the book, where does Corban Addison want them to go?
I want them to go to a place that feels different from where they've been before, even if they're here in Africa. I want them to see things that they might never have seen before. I want them to go with characters into an experience that may feel a bit alien, or might feel a bit heart-wrenching, but they're real experiences. I want my readers to have an emotional journey as well as an intellectual journey, and again, to come out of it feeling like they know more about their world and also feel like they're compelled to do something to help in ways that matter.
Corban Addison, thank you very much for joining me here on Morning Live.